This procedure will address how to control product that does not conform to specific requirements, known as non-conforming product. This will address the identification, documentation, evaluation, segregation, and disposition of non-conforming product. The evaluation of non-conformance will include a determination of the need for an investigation and notification of the persons or organization responsible for the non-conformance. Each evaluation and any investigations will be documented. Any ProSun impersonal member may identify a product as being non-conforming to ProSun requirements. The impersonal member processes the item as needing to be sent for testing, returned to vendor, or scrap. All products suspected or confirmed of being non-conforming material shall be documented, segregated, dispositioned, and controlled per this procedure. Any ProSun personnel who either through their inspection of or intended use of material on a ProSun product finds the material non-conforming to one or more ProSun requirements shall process a non-conform through the use of an issue report form. When one or more non-conforming conditions are discovered in the QC inspecting or testing process of a ProSun product or unit, the unit shall be processed as follows. The QC inspector notifies the production manager or supervisor, whom decides whether the product or unit can remain in service. The QC inspector documents the defects on an issue report form. If the unit can be reworked, then the QC inspector will complete the form and retest the unit to ensure it meets the intended use. If the unit cannot be easily reworked and will require significant testing or may require rework/repair or scrap disposition, then the issue report form is completed and defective materials are moved to the non-conforming area with a copy of the issue report form. When a part, component, assembly, or unit is returned to ProSun from a customer, material shall be processed using an issue report form. Once a non-conforming part, material, product, or unit has been identified, then all of those parts will be segregated in the non-conforming part area outside of the production office or be disposed of. The non-conform issue report can be completed by any personnel member and provides information on the part, discrepancy, and disposition. The issue report will be processed per the work instruction processing issue reports. The designated personnel member reviews the non-conform submissions on a daily basis as per their job checklist. If the form is not filled in properly as per the work instruction processing issue reports, then they will request the required updates from the designated area supervisor. If the form has all correct information, then they will update it in the non-conform log. The designated personnel member updates the NTM log per work instruction, updating the non-conform log for the issue reports that have been provided and meet the requirements. After updating the log, electronic copies of the form are kept together with the pictures submitted for the required amount of time. This procedure will provide guidance on how to handle non-conform issues such as production errors, customer returns, shipping damage, procedural issues, and quality checkpoint issues. It is extremely important that every personnel member fills out an issue report form for whatever the situation might be. It might seem silly to fill out an issue report form for something as small as damaging some pop rivets, but these can create bigger issues such as delaying production due to running out of pop rivets because issue reports were not filled out properly, causing inventory to become unbalanced. All materials that are damaged during the production process and cannot be used in finished product must be processed by completing an issue report form. This includes items that can be sent for rework/repair and items for scrap items. Fill in the date and your name in the Submitted By section of the form. On the assembly checkoff list, find the business process heading you are working on and write this in the business process. In the responsible section, list the name of the person responsible for the damage, whether that is yourself or if it was done by someone in a prior step on the assembly checkoff list. An area, select production. Fill in the part number for the damaged part. Look on the shelf location to find the part number, and if you still cannot find it, then list the part name. If you are uncertain, ask the supervisor. List the quantity of parts that were damaged. In the section for customer returns only, place not applicable in the customer name and SO field. Select the discrepancy type based on the error that you're filling out the issue report form for. In this case, that will be production damage because the item was damaged by the personnel member. In the description of the discrepancy, you must clearly and legibly write what happened and how or why this happened. The person processing the form must have a clear understanding. An example of bad information would be just putting production damage. An example of good information is the acrylic was dropped and scratched and cannot be used. The immediate disposition is what you do with the part. Scrap is when a part is damaged during production and thrown away after completing the form. If a part gets damaged that can be salvaged, then complete the form and put it on the testing area of the non-conforming shelf with the form attached to it. Submit your pictures by email to nonconform@proson.com. This is required to be done and therefore should be marked as yes after you send the email. Pictures should include the part that was damaged as well as a clear image of the form. If for any reason you cannot send pictures, then select no and in the notes explain why not. In the notes section, you can list any additional information that you feel is important or leave it blank. All issues that are found during the assembly process prior to a quality checkpoint should be recorded as production errors. Fill in the date and your name in the submitted by section of the form. On the assembly checkoff list, find the business process heading you are working on and write this in the business process. In the responsible section, list the name of the person responsible for the error, whether that is yourself or if it was done by someone in a prior step on the assembly checkoff list. An area, select production. In the part number and quantity, put not applicable. For customer returns and shipping damage only, put not applicable in both customer name and SO. Select the discrepancy type of production error. In a description of discrepancy, provide a detailed description of the error that was found. The immediate disposition is what you did with the part. Request for rework/repair. Select this if the unit needs to be sent back for rework or repair. Corrected. Select this if you are able to resolve the issue and bring the product into conformance. Pictures are not required to be submitted. The note section can be left blank. All items that are found to be not working from the moment you take them from the shelf are considered to be defective parts, i.e., lamps that do not light up, valves that do not function, etc. Fill in the date and your name in the submitted by section of the form. In the business process and responsible person, put not applicable for both sections. An area, select supply chain. Fill in the part number for the defective part. Look on the shelf location to find the part number, and if you still cannot find it, then list the part name. If you are uncertain, ask the supervisor. List the quantity of parts that were defective. For customer returns and shipping damage only, put not applicable in both customer name and SO. Select the discrepancy type of defective part. In the description of the discrepancy, state how you found out the part was defective. The immediate disposition is what you did with the part. If the part is not an electrical component, it needs to be scrapped, and an issue report form given to the quality engineer. Return to vendor. All electronics such as boards, ballasts, timers, etc. need to go on the non-conforming shelf in the return to vendor section with the issue report form attached. Submit your pictures by email to nonconform@proson.com. This is required to be done and therefore should be marked as yes after you send the email. Pictures should include the part that was damaged as well as a clear image of your form. If for any reason you cannot send pictures, then select No, and in the notes, explain why not. In the Notes section, you can list any additional information that you feel is important or leave it blank. All issues related to QC testing, including low and high UV output, must be documented on an issue report form. Fill in the date and your name in the Submitted By section of the form. In the Business Process, list the business process number from the assembly checkoff list. In the Responsible section, put Not Applicable. In Area, select Production. In the part number and quantity, put Not Applicable. In the section for customer returns only, place Not Applicable in the customer name and SO field. Select the discrepancy type based on the error you are experiencing. Low or high UV output. Did you get a UV reading outside of the range of the QC sheet, and verify with your supervisor if a non-conform should be completed. QC testing non-conformance. Did the device you're working on fail a test such as high pat or grounding? In the description of discrepancy, state specifically what issue occurred. The immediate disposition is what you did with the part. Request for rework/repair. Select this if the unit needs to be sent back for rework or repair. Corrected. Select this if you are able to resolve the issue and bring the product into conformance. Pictures are not required. In the notes, you can list any additional information you feel is important or leave it blank. If you are completing a quality checkpoint review and the checkpoint has any failures, then you must fill out an issue report form for that business process portion. One issue report per quality checkpoint business process. You must also have the personal number of the issue and verify that it has been corrected, or the unit must be segregated from the production line and clearly marked as non-conforming product with a label, or for smaller product, place it in a non-conforming area. Fill in the date and your name in the Submitted By section of the form. The business process should be taken from the section of the assembly checkoff list that the impersonal member is working on. The responsible person is the person who is completing that portion of the assembly process. For area, put production. For part number and quantity, put not applicable. For customer returns and shipping damage only, put not applicable in both customer name and SO sections. The discrepancy type is quality checkpoint. For the description of discrepancy, clearly list any and all of the quality checkpoints that were failed. Immediate disposition. Put corrected if the impersonal member corrects the work. Put request for rework/repair if the impersonal member cannot resolve the error and it needs to be done by another impersonal member, then segregate the device or the part as previously described and select a request for rework/repair. Pictures are not required. In the notes section, you can list any other information that you feel is important or leave it blank. During review of paperwork or while supervising ProSun personnel, if it is found that procedure is not being followed, an issue report should be completed. This can be when reviewing if paperwork is being completed properly, following assembly guidelines in order, or any other procedural process. Fill in the date and your name in the Submitted By sections. Fill in the business process on the assembly checkoff list where procedure is broken, or list not applicable if this was not during a specific process. For a responsible person, list the name of who was responsible for the procedural error. In area, select production. In part number and quantity, put not applicable in both sections. For customer returns and shipping damage only, put not applicable in both customer name and SO. In the description of discrepancy, clearly explain what procedure and which part of that procedure is broken. In the immediate disposition, determine what needs to be done based on the procedure that was broken. Select Request for Testing if something needs to be retested. Select Corrected if the impersonal member or you were able to go back and resolve the error. Select Use As Is if it was a small issue and can be used as is. Pictures are not required to be submitted. In the Notes section, list any information you feel is important or leave it blank. For warehouse, if it is determined that a shipment is being received due to a customer return, then process the form for customer returns. Review the information on the label to see if there are any notifications for return to sender, incorrect address, etc. Fill in the date and your name in the Submitted By section. In the business process and responsible person, put not applicable for both sections. In area, select customer return. For part number and quantity, fill in the part numbers of the items being returned and their quantities. If there is more than one part, then list the additional items and their quantities in the Notes section. If you don't know the part number, put a description of what you are receiving or ask your supervisor. For customer returns and shipping damage only, list the customer name from the shipping label and try and locate an SO and/or service call number. If you cannot find this, list unavailable in this section. This information can usually be found on the shipping label of the box. For discrepancy type, select Customer Return. In description of discrepancy, clearly state what you found on the package was the reason for return. If there is no reason indicated for the return on the packaging, then state that in this section, such as packaging came back but no information provided on reason for return. Immediate disposition. Select Return to Inventory if the parts are still in their original packaging and new, and put the parts away after completing the form. Select Scrap if something was completely damaged and cannot be used, and it should be thrown away after completing this form. Select Request for Testing. If the return is for a board or electronic timer, then it must be tested. Other electronics must be sent for testing if they have been opened and are not in their original packaging. For pictures submitted, take pictures of the box, labels on the box, contents inside, and your form. Then send them by email to nonconform@prosun.com, followed by selecting Yes. If for any reason you cannot email pictures, then select No, and in the Notes section explain why photos were not submitted. Pictures are required. In the notes, you will list any additional parts that cannot fit in the section above. List serial numbers of board/timers that came back and any other information you believe is important. If only one part came back and no serial numbers are needed, then this can be left blank. Customer returns of units not related to shipping damage must have the unit serial number listed in the Notes section. If a package returns to ProSun due to shipping damage, either because you are aware that it is back due to damage or because the package is clearly damaged upon return, then the issue report for shipping damage must be completed. If you are uncertain if something is customer return or shipping damage, ask your supervisor. Fill in the date and put your name in the Submitted By section. For business process, put Not Applicable. In the Responsible Person section, put the name of the shipping company if you know it. You can usually find the shipping company name from the labels. In area, put shipping damage. For part number and quantity, fill in the part numbers of the items being returned and their quantities. If there is more than one part, then list additional items and their quantities in the Notes section. If you don't know the part number, then put a description of the item. In the Customer Returns and Shipping Damage Only section, list the customer name from the shipping label and try and locate an SO and/or service call number. If you cannot find this, list Unavailable in that section. For discrepancy type, select Shipping Damage. In description of discrepancy, provide a clear statement of how the package was received back, such as damaged box, top box totally damaged, contents inside the box were damaged, 5 out of 10 lamps were damaged, etc. Your statement should provide a clear guide to the person processing the form of what happened. Immediate disposition. Select Scrap if the product was totally damaged and should be thrown away after completing the form. Select Return to Inventory if only the outer box was damaged and the contents inside are okay, and the parts can be returned to inventory after completing this form. Select Combination if some items are scrapped, then select Scrap. For pictures submitted, take pictures of the box, label, contents inside the box, and your form and email them to nonconform@prosun.com. Then select Yes. If for any reason you cannot email pictures, then select No, and in the Notes section, explain why photos were not submitted. Pictures are required. For shipping damage, you will also send pictures to shipping@prosun.com with the customer name and shipping damage as subject line. In the notes, you will list any additional parts that could not fit in the section above. List serial numbers of boards/timers that came back and any other information you believe is important. If only one part came back and no serial numbers are needed, then this can be left blank. Shipping damage with units must list the serial number in this section. On any issue report form that you are marking corrected, you should add a description in the notes of how the issue was corrected. When a nonconformance occurs, a personnel member will fill out an issue report form and will bring their part to their designated location on the nonconforming shelf. Once you have sent the pictures and completed the form, go to the printer in the production office and place the document in the top feeder. Select Scan to Network followed by the Nonconform folder. If your parts were scrapped or the issue report is not related to a part, then put the form in the issue report bin. For scrap, your part should be truly disposed of and not still laying around. Small parts in the trash, large parts in the dumpster, lamps in the designated area. If your part is going to stay in the non-conforming area, then attach your form to the part and ensure that the part is in the correct spot.